Hi. Welcome to... I may have gotten slightly addicted this past month. So, fun fact about me, I really enjoy old school RuneScape content. One of my favourite genres to fall asleep to.
Mauritania locked ultimate.
And after years of watching and rewatching old school RuneScape challenge compilations, I finally thought to myself, yeah, I'm gonna try it. Unfortunately, I've broken my brain watching said challenge compilations and felt like I had to do a challenge as well. The default challenge would be to be an Iron Man, but I didn't want to lock myself out of too much of the social experience, so I did a little research and found the challenge mode that I could do. Bronze Man. It's like an Iron Man, but it's less restrictive in one major way. I also ended up setting some self-imposed rules as I went along, because I naively thought, fuck it, why not? I ended up settling on the goal of completing 2001 in a way that roughly emulates what it would be like back then. And when I say roughly, I mean extremely roughly, as there is literally no way to actually play the game like they did back then, and I couldn't be fucked to do the research to figure out all the little intricacies of gameplay differences between then and now. I limited myself to roughly this map here, a list of items that were present throughout 2001, and I wanted to source things out in the wild if at all possible before I bought them in a store. That last one's not actually a 2001 thing, that's just me being egotistical and thinking that it couldn't be that hard, right? Right? Mining, just keep mining. Can't leave mines. Mining. Like all who came before me, and the many more who will come after. The first thing I did was create my character and complete Tutorial Island. Unlike most people, I then turn on my Bronze Man plugin and unlock my first batch of items. You see, Bronze Man works like this. Like I said before, it's like Iron Man where I'm restricted from trading with other players, but there is a caveat to that. I get to use the Grand Exchange, but only after I've sourced the item that I want to buy by myself out in the game, either via PvP, PvE, or crafting it. I won't tell you how I found every item, because there are 387 of them, not including items that have become unobtainable, so what I'll do instead is talk about milestone items along the way. You know, the ones that I really had to work for or were impactful on the journey as a whole. I begin 2001 at the very start, with the pinnacle of questing, Cook, a bastion of tutorial quests that has stood the test of time. What does it teach you? The basics of how to make a cake? Eggy! And that you aren't worthy to eat with the Duke. So, do I get to go to the Duke's party? I'm afraid not. Only the big cheese gets done with the Duke. You low-born random scum. Walking around Lumbridge having a chat with anyone who'll listen, I end up talking to the local priest who was having issues with a ghost haunting the church graveyard. He asks for help but recommends a combat level of 10, and this is where the game gives you your first taste of grinding. Grinding your combat level on goblins is one of those legendary MMO experiences that gets talked about online. I think this is it. This is one of the seminal RuneScape experiences, isn't it? The ancient elders have long passed down their stories of standing here and hitting goblins, talking to others as they do the same. It's also a masterclass in suckering your player base into the concept of grinding. This shit is low-key like how chefs boil lobsters. It starts off with some easy grinding that doesn't take too long, lulling you into a false sense of security, and then BAM! You've spent days of your life making a number go up. I sort of phased out there, just wasn't thinking about it, was just sort of reading in the background, but that's my first level 50. Returning to Father Eric. Eric? Eric? It's just Eric. It's just a funny way to spell Eric. He tells me to go find a hermit in the swamp who is an expert on ghosts. Using an amulet the hermit gives me, I ask the ghost why his ethereal spirit is still tethered to this mortal plane, and it turns out he's actually just a chill guy who wants his skull back. Now I agree with the warlock's aesthetic choice. Skulls are wicked. But I do have to deduct points for the lack of consent. Always get consent from spirits before yoinking their skulls. It fucks up the vibes heavy if you don't. Also, pro tip, you don't actually need to attack the wizards. Death's pretty cool though. Entering the Warlock's basement, I immediately take back everything I said about agreeing with the aesthetic choice. If you're gonna go through the effort of desecrating graves for your skulls, commit to the bit. Just one skull? Really? Also, the security system is kind of shit. This guy's nothing in the face of my bronze sword and pocket full of steak. Yeah, I literally have a pocket full of cold steak. I fucking love MMOs. Returning the skull back to its rightful resting place, I'm rewarded with this absolute masterclass of a 2001 cutscene. It looks like the dude just drowns himself.
I am under the water. Please help me. Past
this point, I'm not going to bore you with every quest that I went on, because A, I'm not that good of a storyteller, and B, I really need to differentiate this from by release somehow. So what I'll focus on instead is how I defeated the Great Demon Delver. The setup for this quest is great. Classic fantasy tropes, you talk to a local soothsayer who reads your future and foresees you wielding a mighty sword to defeat the powerful demon. Unfortunately, its age becomes apparent the second you actually start the quest, as you go to this guy called Sir Prison telling you that you need to find 3 keys to unlock Silverlight. Classic fetch quest. Thankfully, none of the tasks are actually that hard. One is held by a wizard who requires 25 bones, locally sourced from swamp rats. One is held by Captain Roven, who hands it over to you as long as you swear that you don't let Sir Prison get the killing blow, which, of course, I need the KC for quest completion. And the final one is supposed to be held by Sir Prison, but he admits he lost it down the kitchen drain that leads to the sewers. Now, I know I said this quest was easy and simple, but there's one slight problem with that. I'm kinda stupid. You see, I heard sewer and immediately beelined it to the nearest sewer entrance and started exploring. I didn't find the key because I'd skipped a step, but I retreated after encountering some enemies much higher level than me and decided to start my first proper grind of the game. Crafting a full set of leather armor. And this right here is the first of many instances where the whole I'm not looking up guides or wikis is gonna throw a wrench in things. This whole leather crafting is pointless, because the leather armor isn't actually good. But my brain went off of prior RPG knowledge and just assumed that the first full set of armor I should get would be leather. I had previously figured out that I could kill cows and then take their skin across to Al Kharid to make leather. So I spent the next way too long killing cows, taking their leather to Al Kharid, killing Ellis to tan the skins into leather, crafting pieces of leather armor, selling those pieces, and repeating all the way until level 14. This took me many hours. And after wasting all that time, I went back down into the sewers, prepped to face whatever was down there, and couldn't find the key. Remember how Sir Prison said that he lost the key in the kitchen drain leading to the sewers? Yeah, that means it's actually in the drain outside the kitchen, and I need to flush it down into the sewers where it's really simple to pick up. You face no danger in this quest step. So to summarize, I overthought the entire thing, and quests weren't actually that difficult back in 2001. Returning to Sir Prison, he gives us Starlight and sends me off to fight Delruth and complete the ritual, banishing him once again. Gobindo. Back into the dark dimension from whence he came. Yeah! Ah, run. I'm not gonna lie, most of the quests from 2001 are kind of throwaway. They're effectively one-shots that don't tie into any larger storylines, except for 3 main ones. Demon Slayer, which I just went over. Prince Ali Rescue, which is the first of the Caradon line and sees you rescuing a prince via copious amounts of alcohol, a little shibari, and a touch of cross-dressing. And finally, the ultimate test from 2001. The pinnacle quest. The Dragonfire-fed forge that spits out hardened players who can proudly claim they've completed old-school RuneScapes free-to-play. Prior to this quest, you can start most of them with minimal grinding. The recommended or required levels were all achievable somewhat passively, gaining them as you went along. That's not the case with Dragonslayer. Dragonslayer recommends 45 combat level and a magic level of
33
and requires
32
quest points. This means doing every other available quest before you're even allowed to enter the Champions Guild to start the quest. I could bore you to tears by intricately describing how I got my magic level up, but I'll just summarize it by saying there was a lot of chickens killed. The combat grind was just as interesting. I stood out front of Varric Castle and murdered hundreds of guards. Thankfully, being the savior of Varric gives you full legal immunity. By this stage, and with all the previous grinding I'd done, I'd acquired a full set of iron armor, but I got the feeling that I might need something a bit more. When you start playing old school RuneScape, you're aware of the whole concept of grinding. You hear the memes, oh, 92 is half of 99, ha ha ha. Nothing can prepare you for the real thing. I set out to get myself a full set of steel armor, which meant that I would need to level up my smithing from level 38 to 48, which may not seem like a lot, only 10 levels, but that doesn't factor in how I did this. Remember, I'm doing this blind. I know there are meta ways to do this, which will probably take a couple of hours, but I didn't do that. As I had decided to limit myself to items from 2001, I only had access to a bronze pickaxe, because the other kinds were added later in 2003. This meant that it was incredibly easy for me to get bullied out of the good mining spots, and I had to find the next best alternative. The Dwarven Mine. I think out of the 82 hours that I've played this game, a good third of them were spent here, in the mine, ferrying loads of iron and coal backwards and forwards to Edgeville. I need you to understand how long I spent in here. In the time that I spent mining for steel supplies, I watched all of Arcane, rewatched Edgerunners, flirted with mental illness by re-downloading League, and managed to get addicted to Balatro. Also a lot of wank. I've never felt so simultaneously unproductive and productive at the same time. Call me a V-tweeter the way I do so much yet nothing at all. I feel like half the reason it felt so long was because I couldn't just focus on the smelting aspect, which is where I wanted to level. The only saving grace was that this wasn't as bad as the combat level grind. I could at least semi-AFK this shit, and I actually had to pay attention in combat. Fishing was chill though. Love that. Best grind so far. It's like 2 AM, and I'm just sitting here fishing. Listening to playlists on YouTube that'll apparently make me realize you can live your life at its fullest. And you know what I think I am? You are tasked by the Champions Guild to go forth and slay the fabled Dragon of Crandor, a fearsome beast that destroyed the island of Crandor. Real imaginative with the naming there. Now, this being the final quest, it can't be easy, so to get to Crandor you need to find 3 pieces of a map. One taken by a goblin, one in the hands of a mad wizard, and one locked behind a riddle and a magical door. Not only that, you'll also have to find your own ship and captain, as no one would be mad enough to sail to Crandor. That place has a dragon on it! First up, let's focus on the map pieces. The easiest one to get is the one taken by the goblins. How did the goblin come into possession of a priceless map fragment? Well, originally it was given to an old witch who lived just outside of Lumbridge. Yeah. So the guy who has the fragment is locked up in the Port Sarim jail, yet still has the audacity to extort 10k from you for it. Actually, gonna make... Okay, fine, I have to pay fucking 10 grand to a goblin in jail. Okay. Fragment collected. Next is the fragment hidden behind a riddle. 2 of these are pretty simple. A bowl that's not seen heat is just an unfired bowl. Learned pottery was a thing while making a pie for this guy. And a small crustacean cage is obviously a lobster pot. A drink by a mage and worm string changed to a sheet forced me to actually use my brain, which is something I wasn't used to doing after turning it off in the mines. We back in the mine, got the pickaxe swinging from side to side, side to side. While rooting around in the crafting menus, I discovered a drink called a Wizard's Mind Bomb, but as I'm not a member, I couldn't actually make it, so I had to buy it from the Felidor Tavern. The sheet of worm silk I couldn't find at all. I actually had trouble figuring out what this was. Until I remembered there's this silk seller in El Kharid that I kept wondering about while doing my leather run. Fragment collected. The last piece of the map belonged to a wizard. A wizard who had gone mad and locked himself in the basement of a haunted maze with the map fragment sealed in a chest, guarded by a lesser demon. This right here is the whole reason this quest requires a grind. I mean, there is a dragon, but if you can kill a demon, you can kill a dragon. I attempted this boss multiple times, each time getting my shit kicked in, but also learning. I learned that Salmon's not good enough, I learned that right-clicking to attack is tedious, and I learned flinching. Does he have like a... Does he have a... Oh, he does. Oh, the invaluable technique of finding an enemy's aggro range and darting in and out of it, attacking and retreating over and over, manipulating the AI, all in the service of not having to complete the fucking combat level grind! With the demon defeated and the fragments combined, it's time to focus on transportation. Getting a boat's pretty easy, just costs some money, and hiring a captain for what is effectively a suicide mission is actually really easy when you prey on an old man's longing for his younger years. Unfortunately, the boat was easy to get because it's a piece of shit and needs repairs, which means I needed to find planks of wood. As a free-to-play account. In the time that I had played, there was one area that I had access to that I was desperately avoiding. But being free-to-play meant that it was the only place where I could get planks. Yes, the place where PvP is enabled, the one thing I was dreading most when starting this game. I had to enter the wilderness. I had to brave that wicked place to scavenge the graveyard of shadows and... Okay, I can't keep this up, look. I dropped all my items, darted into the plank spawn, and got out with my loot. Don't even think I saw anybody. Now, this would be the part where I show you the cool cutscene of us arriving on Crandor where we're attacked by the dragon and Cabin Boy Jenkins fucking dies, but unfortunately the recording fell victim to a frame-perfect Windows update corrupting the footage. He also didn't miss anything with my first attempt. I instantly died after searching for safe spots. The second one, though... Ow! Over here! Okay. We found a spot. Okay, cool. That's it. Come on! Ooh, that's a good spot. Oh! Is that it? Got it. Found it. Yes, one more. Come on. One more. Yeah! And that is how I slayed the Dragon of Crandor and completed RuneScape's quests from 2001. Yes, that's it. I'm done. Sorry, what was that? What about the items? Well, I collected some of them. Alright, look, you got me. I got distracted making the video. I get clickbaited.